Hello, everyone. Since we only have a short period of time, we want to go ahead and get started on time. Happy New Year and welcome to 2023. It's amazing that 2023, I remember when I was a kid thinking about how old will I be when it's 2020, and already it's 2023. So welcome. I'm going to start with our land acknowledgement. We recognize that all of us at UW-Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we are situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup tribe. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all of our indigenous connections today. We also have a responsibility to acknowledge the history of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. So, lots of things going on campus. Just a reminder that this is a campus update month. So we alternate between updates and then a substantive conversation on the alternating month. So if you have something that you would like us to have a campus conversation about, please let me or Joe know so that we can arrange that. We do still have quite a few searches going on. We have the Dean of Nursing and Healthcare Leadership that is underway, and I understand that is going fairly well. I'm looking out to see, to Andy, yes, that's going pretty well. We are wrapping up our Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration search. We had our last candidate here at the beginning of the quarter, and I got the search committee report on Friday, and so we'll be making some progress on that hopefully later this week. And then we have completed we were waiting to start the search for the Vice Chancellor for advancement for us to finish the review. And so we did wrap that up in December, and I will be meeting with the UW Seattle team next week, actually, Mary Gresh, who leads that team, to start mapping out what does this then mean for us as we begin to craft the job description for our Vice Chancellor for here. So hopefully we will be launching that search sometime in the spring as we go forward. There were a couple of other things. You all know that the bookstore is closed. I think it was Friday was the last day. So that has been caused a lot of angst as to how people can students might get their books. And we've sent out a lot of information to students and to faculty saying, okay, here's, you would order your books the normal way, which is through the link. We still have a contact at the UW Bookstore for ordering books. And then the books will be sent to students either at the address that they designate, or we've designated a place here on campus for them. And that shipping will be free to students as we go forward. We are still looking actively to partner with someone here in Tacoma to get Tacoma branded issues, because there were quite the issues with the bookstore closing were how are students going to get their books? Where are we going to get UW branded material, and how are we going to celebrate faculty books and book signings and those kind of things. So for the branding, we're looking to partner with local artists and local community, Tacoma community folks. And then we're thinking about where we might put that material, but we will have UW T branded material. And then for book signings, and we're hoping to either partner with the library or with the university bookstore to have them actually come down and do those things just in a space on campus rather than in the big bookstore space. So we still think we can celebrate books and faculty books and book signings and those kind of things in partnership with the bookstore. Unfortunately, at the same time that the bookstore closed, their Hello Cupcake closed, so there's also been a lot of angst about, oh my God, are people leaving Pacific Avenue, and is the university, a money-grubbing landlord driving people out of business? So that was sort of the narrative that was in the student newspaper. And the answer is no. We actually lowered rents for tenants along Pacific Avenue as a way to try and help them stay in business during the pandemic. And then we have been working with folks on Pacific Avenue who are having a difficult time, trying to work with them to help them through. We do not charge market rents. We charge less than market rents, but I think it's just a hard time for businesses right now with the cost of labor going up and the cost of materials going up. And although, rent is part of that, we have not been increasing rates and driving people out of business as a university. We're actually trying to do all that we can to keep businesses in business and not have the rent be a barrier to them staying in business. So, you can share that and correct the information that is out there that we are somehow raising rents and driving people out of business, or that we are charging exorbitant rents and trying to make large profits. I think the student newspaper had that we get $12 million a year or something from that, and that is just not true. It is a much lower number. I think they used the entire facilities budget number for their story. To that end, as we're thinking about our physical campus, at our last month's conversation was about how the campus is going to grow and how we're going to grow up that hill, what we actually do to get to our realized dream of 10,000 students and the campus expanding all the way up to Tacoma Avenue. That was a very engaging conversation with a lot of wonderful ideas. Joe and I had a follow-up meeting with Ruben Casas, who has a lot of energy and has actually studied urban serving campuses and the relationships that they have with the cities that they're in. And so we're hoping that he will help us shape some of this work to come. We agreed that in going forward, but we'll have a series of community conversations where we'll actually invite people in to help us shape those conversations. One of the first ones will be around the edges of campus and inviting the city in to come and tell us what they're planning to build around us. So what are the plans for, I'm always like, is this the east side, south side of? That side of 20, is that the south side? It's the south side of 21st. So what's going to happen? What does the city know about what's happening up 21st all the way to Tacoma Avenue? And then what's planned on the other side of Tacoma Avenue? And then coming down 17th, what projects do they know about? And so that we can get a sense of what's planned to be built around our campus. So that as we think about, one of the ideas that came up was, should we have porous entrances to campus to make sure that we are inviting community in, not putting up fences? If you visited some urban campuses, they have huge fences around them, so we don't want to be that kind of walled-in campus. But understanding what's going to be built around us will actually help us think more strategically about our own edges, particularly if we should have open space, parks or something that on all of the entrances, from 21st to Tacoma to 17th, something that invites people in. So that will be our first conversation, and we're working to get that scheduled. Some of the others that we would schedule would be green space. So open space, green space on the campus, and what does that look like as we're building this campus out? And then I should have brought my notes up because I forgot the others, but we'll continue to keep this on the agenda though, and we want this to be an open conversation with the campus so that everyone can contribute. I think this edges conversation is going to be really interesting for us. For example, I heard that they're planning to build another Marriott tower over there on 17th. I'm like, well, what does that mean if there's another big hotel there right across the street from us? So those kind of things will be really interesting. That first conversation will be really interesting. I don't know if we'll get it set up for the February conversation. It may be the April conversation, or it may have to be a separate meeting given the city's availability to do it. Okay, I wanted to also give an update on budget. As you all know, we are under enhanced monitoring and our enrollment is down, and so our tuition collection continues to be down. We are not in the panic stage yet. We are negotiating right now with the President Provost for the MOU that says here are the things that we are going to do on a go-forward basis to actually get our balance, our budget balance. We know that we have to make some permanent reductions in our budget, and so we are beginning to talk about how we phase those reductions in over a 3-year period rather than trying to do it all in 1 year. And it's not a large amount of money, 5% of our budget, but it is, it's significant to make those kind of permanent reductions. So we'll be looking at that over the coming year and working with all of the units on that. At the same time that we're planning for all of this budget issues, financial transformation. Wait, raise your hand if you've heard about financial transformation. Okay, so thank you, because everyone at least has heard about it. I've heard about it. I had a briefing about it. The deans and board of deans and chancellors had a briefing about it. But it's real. It is supposed to happen July 1. And so there is a series of training that's going to happen. I know that those, the administrators and the finance team really know about it, but it hasn't really trickled down to the rest of us that this is happening. It's going to be very significant for us, for all 3 campuses actually, as we go through this. So the training is going to be really important, particularly for those who are using that and relying on the financial information. So my understanding is that training is supposed to roll out next month. So there will be some the trainers that will happen. I'm looking at Jan. We were on a call just this morning about this. So folks on the campus who are heavy users will be trained, and then they will in turn train other people with some help from the financial transformation team. So we are assured that we're going to have lots of support as we go through this, but we do need people to do the training. So I want to encourage you as those things come through to make sure that you pay attention to them. The other thing that is not on the agenda that I want to encourage is for us to nominate students for the Husky 100. And so this is the recognition of students for their leadership work on or off campus. And we have not had a big showing last year, and we had a small number, and I think Mentha has set a goal of at least this year. There are 100 students from all 3 campuses. She wants us to have at least 15 from Tacoma. That means we have to nominate students and then follow up with them to help them complete the nomination materials. So my understanding in the past is we've had great success nominating students, but then we don't follow up with them to help them get the nomination materials submitted. So please help us. You all know that our students are phenomenal. They're doing incredible work, and it would be wonderful to have them recognized in this next cohort of Husky 100. And the other thing that's not on here is legislative. So you all know the legislature started last week, and I think I'm going to be down there Friday. I will be in Olympia, it looks like at least once a week for the duration of the session. We have a lot of ask in front of the legislature this year, including compensation, which is going to be very important for all of us. But the governor has put in his budget 4%, and so we hope that will continue throughout the Senate and the House. And we have asked for a larger portion of that to be paid by the legislature. We have this split thing where they expect us to pay a portion of the salary increases from local funds. And so the proposal is that we will bump that up to at least 2/3 of it being paid by the legislature and 1/3 being paid locally. So we'll continue to advocate for that. We have an ask in front of the legislature for student support, which includes mental health services and enhancing all of the student support on campus, which is really well aligned with our retention efforts. And so that will provide us with a lot more staffing and support for students here, post-pandemic especially. The other ask is for expanded STEM enrollments. So we want to build on our computer science and our IT and mechanical and civil engineering, all the programs in SET. And so there's asks for additional faculty lines there and support. And then finally, there is an ask for us to begin to there are a few parcels in our footprint that we don't own that are for sale, and so we want to make sure that we have an opportunity, and we don't have local money to buy them. So we're asking for funding to do that so that we can secure the campus footprint for the future that we are imagining as we go forward. There are a couple of other smaller things that are not on our UW agenda, and those include, they're specific to UW-T. One is we want to clarify some funding for the Center for Urban Waters. So we're working with our legislative delegation on that. We also have been asked to submit a proposal for piloting a program for formerly incarcerated students. So some of you are familiar with Chris Beasley and the work that he is doing. And what we want to do is the community college system has reentry programs that are funded by the Department of Corrections. We want to have a program that's funded by the legislature, a model for four-year campuses that support formerly incarcerated students in a more structured way. And so Chris has been working with our legislative team to put together a proposal for that. And then the idea is we would pilot it here at Tacoma, and then we would replicate that at the other four-year campuses, because the community college system already has this. And so that is moving forward. And then the final sort of unofficial thing that we're working on is we're able to convene the healthcare employers, all of the K-12 and community college and four-year healthcare educators, and we put together an agenda for what we would need to expand and grow the healthcare workforce here in Pierce County. So that is a coalition that we are part of. That coalition is asking for funding to go to Workforce Central. That would be used to grow pipeline programs, to expand capacity at colleges and universities, and to do some of the what we're calling skilling up workers who are already in the healthcare field who may not be making living wage jobs. So we have this thing here in Pierce County called ALICE, and so they're folks who are working but income limited. And so we would be working with employers to skill up those folks who are not making living wage or family wage jobs, skill up so that they can be more competitive for more higher paying wage jobs. So that is a coalition of school districts, colleges and universities, employers, the city and the county are putting that forward. And so as we're going out talking to legislators, we are doing that as well. That's a lot. So do you want to talk about enrollment? Look, Joe is so efficient. Thank you. I said I want to keep us focused this year on our retention numbers and what we are doing and how that is so important. We're going to talk about recruitment. Shannon's going to come up and talk about recruitment, but retention is just as important for us, especially for enrollment and stabilizing our budgets. So our first year retention rates are right now is the 83%. Is that right? Okay. And then, but you see, we continue to lag behind Bothell and Seattle. And so for us, if we could just get to a point where we're the retention rates equal to Bothell, we'll solve a lot of our enrollment problems. So there's a student success group that has been working and thinking about what we can do differently. They've started out just doing the inventory of what we're already doing on campus, and so that work will continue to help us move these numbers for retention and graduation ultimately. The other side of that is bringing people in. And so Shannon, I'm going to invite you to come up. Shannon has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes while busy processing all the applications. She's doing a lot of policy work and getting us ready for a new enrollment future. So I'm going to have her talk to us about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Shannon Carr, and I serve the university as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Services. And today marks my one-year anniversary at University of Washington, Tacoma. So I'm very glad to be here. The slides that I'm going to show you, the next two slides that you'll see are simply slides that were shared with the Board of Regents this past week. Mentha and Sheila and I had the opportunity to be up and to present in front of the Board of Regents. We traveled an hour and a half to get there for 2 minutes of presentation time, which is always fun. As you look at these slides, some of this may not make sense, but we wanted to show them to you. And what we were really trying to convey to the Board of Regents was a couple of things. One, we have amongst the three campuses the most diverse student populations. And what we wanted to showcase there in talking about our student story is really to show that, that our students have kind of been disproportionately impacted by COVID. So as COVID hit, our students were impacted in ways that were different from the other two campuses, largely because our students come from a much smaller geographic region, so we don't have the opportunities to recruit much more broadly as the other two campuses do. And that impact, and again, our students also, from a socioeconomic perspective, were hit much harder as a result of the pandemic. And so we saw that our application and ultimately our enrollment numbers were disproportionately hit. And so as we look at these next two slides, this is really the observations and the impacts that we were trying to talk about. And so what I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of is to talk about winter census and then to show a forward-looking picture. So here's some winter census data that I think shows that we have a bit of a decline, but shows a bit of an upward-looking or forward-looking picture. So we are down 3.7% from winter 2022 in terms of our overall enrollment. We're down 175 students. Now, a couple of weeks ago when I was talking to my team, we thought we were going to be down over 200, so that gap has closed a little bit. That was an optimistic picture. When we looked at winter 22 over winter 21, we were down over 6%. So you can see that we're sort of having a flattening decline, which is a good story. We like to see that. From autumn 2022, we're down about 3%, 143 students. There's this interesting shift in gender that I noted. Males represent 51% of this winter class versus 48% of last winter's class, which is a pretty interesting shift. And students of color obviously are the vast majority of our students at 58%. Last year we were at 57%, so not a notable change, but certainly one that we want to pay attention to. Course modality, about 55% of our classes continue to be taught solely in person. Hybrid's about 15%, and the other modalities are about 30%. New student enrollment, that's of course our continuing enrollment. New student enrollment, I just wanted to give a brief overview of winter 23 to winter 22. FTIC, which are our freshmen, we were up in applications but came in a little bit low in terms of our overall enrolled. Our transfer applications were consistently down over the entire cycle, and enrolled was down about 28. Not quite as much as the applications, but down. And then graduate was down in applications, but almost flat in terms of enrolled. So overall, we were down 37 total new students over last year. However, the picture for autumn is vastly, vastly different, and I want to talk about this. You're going to look at this, and you're probably like me, going to get really, really excited. And this is a really exciting, good news story to share. But I'm going to pop the bubble a little bit and run lots of caveats. Anyone who's worth their weight in gold and has done this enrollment work for a long time is going to use a term that I lovingly call cautiously optimistic. And that is that I want to tell a really good story and I want you all to be happy, but I don't want you to be too happy because if something doesn't go right, I don't want to lose my job. So here's the story. We are way up in applications. Freshman applications are at 2,318 compared to 1,494 last year. That represents a 36% increase. And that is great news. To give context to that story, the University of Washington, Seattle is also up. They are up around 19%. Bothell is flat. I like telling that story because I'm a hugely competitive person. The Common App reports that applications are up nationally, and they are up amongst students of color and first-generation college students. Of course, those are our bread and butter students. I have talked to every public institution in the state, most of whom the directors of admissions are my longtime friends, and I've said, where are you at? They are mostly flat to very modestly up. So this is a big number. I will say that there's a couple of reasons that we're up. Number one, we joined the Common App this year. Anytime a school joins the Common App, they can expect to be up anywhere from 10 to 15%. That's what the Common App will tell you, that you'll see an application bump. The application bump doesn't always translate into an enrollment bump, so those aren't necessarily correlated. The other thing is that this is the first time that we have had a shared application with the other University of Washington campuses. So as you know, Bothell and Seattle have been on a same application for a number of years. We haven't had that advantage previously. So this is the first time we've been in partnership with them. The other thing is, this is the first time that every public university, not the first time, this is the first time since the early 90s that every public university in the state of Washington, four-year university in the state of Washington, has been on a shared application system. So we would expect all of those things to contribute to application growth. So that's, I think, what is contributing to this. But I will acknowledge we are way ahead of everyone else in terms of our application volume. Our confirmations, though, are also up. We have not started a confirmation push yet in terms of any of our messaging. We haven't asked students to confirm yet. So the fact that that's happening is all happenstance. We haven't told students to do that yet. We'll start that push and that effort closer to the early part of March. Transfer applications, we are down a little bit. Honestly, I'm always concerned about this, so I'm not going to pretend I'm not concerned. It bothers the heck out of me, but I'm going to pretend to you that I'm not concerned, only because transfer students are, we're still early in the cycle for transfer students, so we haven't really kind of kicked off for transfer students yet. This is still really low volume time for transfer students, but confirms look pretty good on the whole for that population. And then graduate students are looking good for autumn as well. So on the whole, picture is looking good, but we have a heck of a lot of work to do. The name of the game in enrollment services, and all my enrollment services colleagues have heard me say that, our word of the year is urgency. We are changing up everything. We moved to Common App. We released our decisions. We normally do not release our admission decisions until well after the first of the year. We released our admission decisions this year on December 15th. If any of you know the world of admission decisions, it's only the private schools that get out on December 15th. We released on the same day as Stanford this year. We released 1,500 awards or admission decisions on December 15th. That was huge. Like, the work that the admissions team did to get that done was phenomenal. So kudos to them. And we've been releasing them every 30 days since then. So we've just kind of overhauled everything we've done, and yield work is the name of the game. So it's getting students to convert now, and we're overhauling all of our work. The last two things that I want to point out is kind of next steps for us in addition to process overhaul. At the end of this month, we will start our strategic enrollment planning, and the first step, well, the first of a couple of steps in that, is bringing to campus some a partner called Ruffalo Noel Levitz. For those of you that don't know Ruffalo Noel Levitz, they are a strategic enrollment consultancy. They're one of the best out there. They're coming January 25th and 26th. They're going to do a readiness assessment just to assess our readiness to do this work and then to make recommendations for how we can proceed in our strategic enrollment planning. They will be meeting with a wide variety of people from across campus. Hopefully many of you have received invitations to participate in the day, and we will be sharing the outcomes and the results of their work with the campus community. In preparation for both that day and for our ongoing strategic enrollment planning, we have formed a enrollment data council, and up on the screen you will see the charge of the Enrollment Data Council listed there, but we know that data is the underpinning of all of the work that we're going to do, and so this is the charge for that group. And then we've also created a university recruitment team, and the university, as you well know, almost all of the schools across campus have staff members within the schools that either have recruitment or marketing, either as their full position and responsibility or as part of their position and responsibility. And yet we don't necessarily come together in as many strategic ways as we can and should. And so we've created this university recruitment team so that we can come together more strategically and more proactively to do the work of university recruitment in a much more concise way and to support each other. So instead of doing things as one-off, we do them as partners and as a team supporting one another. So we've had a few meetings so far, and we look forward to continuing that work in the coming months and over the next year to develop recruitment plans for together and to build a university recruitment plan in whole. So that's a little bit about what's happening on the enrollment front, and I'm going to now invite Elavie to the stage for the next part of our presentation.
And thank you for lowering the stand. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Those who are standing there, I hope you can hear, but before you exit, make sure you pick up a copy of the golden, the gold handout, which is about what I'm about to discuss. First of all, a reminder by our fearless leader and Chancellor, Sheila Edwards-Lang, that all of us, each one of us, whether we are in this room today or tomorrow, wherever we are on this campus, in the classrooms, in admissions offices, in the Office of Equity and Inclusion, in academic affairs and student affairs, all of us together, faculty and staff and students, are responsible for transforming the campus climate. The Chancellor cannot do that alone. Definitely this new Vice Chancellor for Equity and Inclusion, who's only 5 months in, can definitely not do it alone. So how will you engage in this work? Some of you may already be aware that we actually have a Washington State legislature mandate to do diversity work. Raise your hand if you've heard about that. Yeah. So we are not playing games here. This is serious business. So the Washington State Senate Bill 5227 requires that all public institutions of higher education provide a professional development program for faculty and staff with the purpose of eliminating structural racism. Yes, they did name it. By the way, it's on the website of the UW system. I'm not using my own words, okay? I'm saying safe today. To eliminate structural racism and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, beginning with now. The 2022-2023 academic year. And the program must also work to improve academic, social, and health and wellness outcomes for students. That's a typo over there. For students from historically marginalized communities. So, in other words, the legislature understands our mission, and we understand their vision. It is an invitation to all of you and your colleagues. If you forget anything else, write down March 10th, it's a Friday, March 10th, 2023. We'll be rolling out our first ever campus-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion professional development focused on building community, building a beloved community through mindful communication. Sometimes we do things to each other or against each other because we don't even know how to communicate to each other or with each other across difference. I realized that this is a serious issue in September when even UW President Anna Marie Kelsey brought this up in her annual address. How we need to heal and renegotiate our relationships, that we have forgotten how to be kind to each other. I'm paraphrasing what she said. In that time, I said, oh my goodness, she knows? Because as new as I was, I had already learned that, oh my goodness, we do need to do some work to reclaim our kind, our generous, our compassionate community at UW Tacoma. But I was keeping that to myself because I was protecting everyone from knowing what I had already learned, only to find out that there was no secrets. And definitely, even since the publication of the Campus Climate Survey results and recommendations, there were no secrets. So we all know. So now we have to do the work. This professional development opportunity on March 10th is for faculty and staff because we are the adults in the room. We need to get our house in order. I'll be working with my colleague. I saw him. There he is, Dr. Bernard Anderson, and maybe a student representative to plan a separate session on another day for students. We have not forgotten our duty to educate students. We have 450 seats available, and it's my intention to fill all of them with all of you and your colleagues. Location, right here. We will open the back. The time, 9 to 4, with breakfast and lunch and snacks generously being served by the Office of Chancellor Lang. And the registration deadline is February 7. In fact, today, before 5, we will be disseminating campus-wide the registration form. So you will have it through the UW T-Line communication channel. It's also on the gold handout that you have. Following this session, we're providing a very rare opportunity for a smaller group of staff and faculty, maybe student leaders. I will need help trying to figure out who exactly, to participate in a mindful facilitation training certification program, something that took me 3 years to achieve. So when you ask me, how did you know what to say? The words you use, that's the secret. So I will be sharing my secret with maybe 30 to 35 members of this community through this Mindful Facilitation Certificate program. And the location, this one will be virtual to offer more flexibility. It will be every other Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Same registration deadline, February 7, 2023. Again, so you will receive 2 UWT line emails with registration forms attached because we try to separate them so that people are not confused. Does that make sense? So, what do I need from each one of you? Come. Please. No excuses. Try. If your leg hurts, just lean on the other one. Okay. See, mine is hurting because I was lifting boxes the other day to organize my home office, but I'm here leaning on the one that's not hurting. Okay? So, no, this is really critical. If you are a supervisor, please, on March 10th, bring the people that you supervise. Faculty, raise your hand if you are faculty. You must be kidding me. Again, higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am going to find you, faculty. I am going to, with my African feet that go everywhere and invited, I am going to all the faculty offices and all department chairs and all the dean's offices because more than anyone else, we need our faculty to be in these seats on March 10th. I am not saying this. Our students are saying this. I will stop talking and go take my seats. Raise your hand if you will be here. You see, I love you folks. Now bring your people. My friend Susan.
What a tough act to follow now. Now she's got you all riled up. It's great. And you see, my leg was hurting and I came with a stick. So one thing I want to just check in. How's everybody doing? Feeling all right? Yeah, I think it's wonderful that we can all be back together again, right? That's amazing. That's a blessing. So saying that, I need everybody to kind of make a commitment today, a covenant, however you want to phrase it. Getting back to basics. Just as we just heard about COVID, we had to pivot. We had to change our business model. We had to figure it out. Well, now we're back. And since we're back, we have to pivot the way we do business. But one of the things is getting back to basics, knowing what to do if there's an emergency on campus, right? We have all this wealth of knowledge on our campus safety website. So when I hear folks feeling overwhelmed, saying, I don't know what to do if there's a medical emergency, I don't know what to do if a person's in distress, who do I report to? Because everything's changed. And some folks got hired, they've never been to the campus. So as part of our commitment, I'm working with our marketing and advancement folks. We're going to bring back the Are You Ready books. Those were a really good tool. They had QR codes and also the flip books that were in classroom spaces, in suites, and that's on the basic foundations. But what I need from everyone here is to read it, is to think about it, is to talk about it. But it's not just about the campus. So just to give you an idea, to see if I click on it, if it really works, we can hope. So here it is, we're on our website, and I just want to show you the type of conversations we put in here. What's the situation? What should I do? Really, for any type of emergency situation. We have resources on campus. We have a campus safety ecosystem, both internally and externally, where if someone's in crisis, who do we report to? I would really appreciate if everybody could just take a look at this, go through it. And then on the emergency preparedness, we updated all the evacuation routes, the assembly points. And then here's what the Are You Ready books look like in person when you download it. So we'll physically get here. It's really cool. I think it's cool because this was put together by our graduate students and it's evolved through the years. We wanted to have something that you can have in your thing, in your pocket. And here, where it's showing the campus of how to get out. But these types of assembly points, this is when there's a fire evacuation. This is when we're just doing accountability, then folks can leave. Something's impacted the buildings that people can't stay in it, right? For faculty, in your handbooks, there is a call of action there too, where if you're working in your classroom spaces, knowing what to do if there's an emergency. You are the responsible party in there because the students are looking to you to lead them out of those classrooms. Or maybe you have to shelter in place because there's a very bad spill over at the tide flats and that cloud is coming this way. So our emergency responders are telling us you have to stay inside, shut it. So one of the other things besides just looking at resources, what I wanted to check in with, is that we're putting together a core planning group. We're going to be meeting next week to talk about our lockdown drills, our evacuation drills, and scheduling them out. But we're going to do it a little different than Seattle. We're going to do it a little different than Bothell. We're actually going to announce it to everybody. We're going to post signage, so that would decrease the amount of anxiety folks feel, especially since we have a very diverse population. Not only our faculty, staff, and students, but we have our retail tenants. So they need to know if their spaces are going to be impacted. And another third thing I'd really appreciate everybody could do is sign up for UW alerts. That's the way we're going to communicate. Our percentage of folks signing up for cell phones, because that's an SMS text, when everything else is down, that's the way you're going to get the message. It's low. So please check your cell phone numbers. Please sign up, because the snail email, no one's going to read that, unless you're walking around like I do with my phone always popping up. So let's go back. So here are the icons. Look through them. We're always looking to improve. If there's some topics that you're interested in or it's not covered here in classroom management, let us know. And we're always looking to improve. So another thing is we have a project that we're doing to kind of, as you've seen nationally, also is crimes are up, right? Violent crimes are up. It keeps me up at night every day. So how can we as a community work together? So I'm part of a Pierce County Higher Ed Coalition, and we're working with our regional partners so we can have some standardized operating procedures. How do we work with each other? How do we train? How do we bring resources? Because everyone's budgets are very vulnerable. So we're trying to work through this, so we're analyzing it and going those next steps. So bringing trainings here, bringing a community emergency response team. We did CERT years ago, and that's our partnership with Tacoma Fire. So right now we're looking at how do we bring that to all the universities here in higher ed as a regional resource. Training our security folks, training our custodial folks, because they're here after hours. So that's the thing when we look at hazards, it's not just an 8 to 5. It's what happens when our students are here studying, they're working in the labs. So the surveillance cameras, we're working on this project to post them in spaces that we can get as a deterrent. So the Whitney is one space, the parking lot across the street, Tacoma Paper Stationery, Pinkerton area, and also the back of the Y. And then just for visual purposes, the stairs that are going down from the Prairie Line Trail, just in case we have slip, trips, and falls. So where we would have a blue phone, someone's pressing, something happened. We have DUIs that happen. You saw some spaces coming through campus were crashed. These are those type of emergencies that happen after hours, that we're always, as campus safety, being there and helping folks. But what we really, though, need to understand is that safety culture here, it's everyone's responsibility. Everyone's accountable. We cannot do this in a void. So appreciate that help. And if you have any questions, I'll also be here after hours. And we'll be doing our road show of doing workshops, going over these emergency procedures. So if there's something specific you want for your meetings and groups, please reach out to us on uwtsafe@uw.edu. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so this is the fun part where you all get to ask questions of anything that you've heard, and we ask people to come to the microphones so that folks can hear. Maybe there are no questions. So it looks like, are you raising your hand that you have a question? you have to.
She's introducing herself.
But she needs to go to the microphone because we can't hear you. Okay.
Hello, my name's Sarah Anderson. I work with the libraries. And I have a question. The 3-year budget reduction plan is part of the agreement with the Board of Regents or the Provost's office. Is that impacted at all if the enrollment targets are kind of in line with what it looks like might be?
That is a great question, and yes, it is, because we've had a practice here of spending temporary money on permanent, ongoing expenses. And so to the tune of, we're spending about $3.5 million out of our reserve every year of ongoing expenses. So that will get us back to just a basic baseline of living within our budget. So the good news is if the enrollment comes back, that is part of our mitigation plan. And that's why we're bringing Ruffalo Noel Levitt, that we said we would do some enrollment planning and think more strategically about our enrollment than we have, thinking about the mix of graduate students, in-state, out-of-state, and then the size of our freshman class, and then doing some financial modeling around that as well. But enrollment will help us. It will stabilize us as well as retention. But we've got some practices that we've been, bad habits that we've had for a long time here that we need to clean up. Cindy?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Cindy Shartman from the Office of Global Affairs, and my question is really for Shannon. Thank you for giving us such a detailed picture about the enrollment numbers at UW-Tacoma. I was curious if you had any idea of why this shift in gender was happening in the enrollment picture, and maybe you don't, and that's fine too, of course, but I was curious, relatedly, whether or not we're an outlier in that shift or whether or not you're seeing similar numbers nationally.
So while Shannon is making her way to the phone, I will say that surprised me just because nationally there's a large concern about the decrease in men going to college. So to see us increasing seems to be not aligned with that.
I think, Cindy, I think it's too early to tell. Obviously, the census day was just yesterday, and so and for a lot of institutions, they haven't even hit their census day yet. So there isn't a lot of comparative data to look at yet from other institutions. So too early to tell in terms of comparative data to other institutions, and I don't know what's really contributing to that shift for our institution, but it certainly is interesting and different from what I would have expected given the trends that we've been seeing over many years. So we'll dig into it a bit.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing. When I saw it, I was surprised by it, but I was like, okay, that's great because we are losing men in large numbers out of higher education. Ben, did you have a question?
Thank you, Chancellor. Ben Mock, I'm with Integrated Facilities Management. I've worked here since 2009 and never spoke at one of these, so what I'm about to say must be really important. I just wanted to comment that I think it's the $11.5 million number that was mentioned in that article. That is the estimated revenue that's generated by the tenants in those, that's generated by those businesses. I asked Stanley if we had a $12 million IFM budget. If we did, his smile would be so big you could see it behind the mask. But I would throw out one other number, roughly about $500,000. That is the amount that the real estate portfolio is contributing to campus this fiscal year in the form of debt service and other direct support of campus activities. So there's not a slush fund that we're rolling around in. So.
Thank you for that, Ben, for clarifying. Yes, it's always interesting when you read things in the newspaper and you're like, well, that's not true. But trying to make sure we get the right numbers out there. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Kara Peters with the library, and this is not related to this, it's related to the town hall. Are there any whisperings about the Swiss building getting occupied?
Oh. Yes, there's lots of interest in bringing the Swiss back. It is a historic building, and Ben is making his way over to the microphone to help me answer this question. We really would love to bring the Swiss back. We'd have to get an operator in there. There's a lot of repairs that need to happen, and we are definitely looking at what options we might have with either historic tax credits or something to, it's all about money, you know? It's like when we have the funding to repair the building and get an operator in there.
I really can't add anything to that. It's on the market. If you know anybody, give me a call.
That's great.
Hi, you were talking about studying the edges of the campus, and it made me wonder if the university has a particular position or using its voice to advocate with the city about the challenges for people who are without housing, especially right now with the Home in Tacoma initiative moving forward. So just wondering.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have been, there's a planning group that's made up of some faculty who actually study either urban planning or homeless advocacy and policy. And we've been meeting with the city to try and figure out, should we have a series of, I don't want to say problem solving, but convenings to think about what we can do in partnership with others to address the issues of, I don't want to say housing because we're not going to solve housing. So it is more about what do we need to do to have a holistic approach to addressing the homelessness issue in our city. And so I said, you know, what we can do is we can bring our faculty and expertise that we have, because we have some faculty who actually study this and have served on committees and written reports. Ali Madaris has done a lot of this work with the city. But we can do convenings, we can sort of benchmark what other cities are doing and put that in front of the city. We can, you know, put our students to work on projects. So we're trying to figure out how we can stay in our lane as a university and use our expertise. We're not going to be the ones who are going to solve the issue, but we can be part of bringing communities together to address it. Because I don't know that we'll ever solve it. But yes, we're definitely at the table on that. And we're not doing, I know that there are some folks who have asked us to use our property to build low-income or affordable housing. That is not in our mission, and I keep telling community people that. Our mission is to grow this university so that we can be in service to this community, providing access to kids from the South Sound, and then providing economic development and research and scholarship that's going to help drive this region. And we're not going to be developing low-income housing. So if you hear that out there, just let folks know you heard it directly from the horse's mouth. We're not going to be using our property to build low-income housing. We will be part of the solution and part at the table with the city and others, but we're not going to use our land that way. Okay, well, we are at time. I want to thank you all. And again, if you have ideas for a substantive conversation that you'd like to have us bring people or put together a panel for our community conversation next month, I'm open to that as well. So enjoy the rest of the day.